Hey, it's Ellie. Welcome back to Bite-Sized Book of Mormon. I'm so glad you're here. So if you've never been here before, this is just a podcast where I read the Book of Mormon one chapter at a time, and I provide a little bit of insight, maybe a little bit of context, hopefully increased understanding, I try, and I make jokes, and it's just a fun, casual time reading the Book of Mormon and appreciating what it teaches us. So what happened last week, we read 1 Nephi chapter 8, and oh my goodness, I was very excited about that. It was the chapter where Lehi was telling his kids and telling his family about a vision that he had, known as the vision of the tree of life. And it kind of talked about how there was this tree with white fruit, and he went to it and he tasted it and he was like, oh, this is amazing. This is like everything that anyone could ever want in a fruit, you know? And then he wants his family to come over and eat it too, and Nephi and Sam and Sarai, his wife, do. They all come and they all eat it. Laman and Lemuel don't, and Lehi's very concerned at this point. He actually mentions that a couple times. He's worried about Laman and Lemuel because they didn't come and partake of the fruit. And so he describes a lot of things, and essentially the vision just represents life. Like there's a great and spacious building full of people mocking the people who are at the tree of life, and that kind of represents temptations of Satan and the natural man and all these difficult things about the world. And there's a straight and narrow path, straight as in difficult, not a straight line, by the way. And that is the path that leads to the tree of life. And there's a rod of iron that runs along it that people have to cling to so they can stay on the path. And all these really, really cool things, all this amazing imagery about life and the world and like what we have to do to get to God. Such a good chapter. It was a good one. All right, so I think without further ado, we read 1 Nephi chapter 9. It's a short one, so this will be quick. And all these things did my father see, and hear, and speak, as he dwelt in a tent in the valley of Lemuel, and also a great many more things, which cannot be written upon these plates. And now, as I have spoken concerning these plates, behold, they are not the plates upon which I make a full account of the history of my people. For the plates upon which I make a full account of my people, I have given the name of Nephi. Wherefore they are called the plates of Nephi, after mine own name, and these plates also are called the plates of Nephi. Nevertheless, I have received a commandment of the Lord that I should make these plates, for the special purpose that there should be an account engraven of the ministry of my people. Upon the other plates should be engraven an account of the reign of the kings, and the wars and contentions of my people. Wherefore, these plates are for the more part of the ministry, and the other plates are for the more part of the reign of the kings and the wars and contentions of my people. Wherefore, the Lord hath commanded me to make these plates for a wise purpose in him, which purpose I know not. But the Lord knoweth all things from the beginning, wherefore he prepareth a way to accomplish all his works among the children of men. For behold, he hath all power unto the fulfilling of all his words. And thus it is. Amen. So, it was a very quick chapter, as I'm sure you noticed. Just 6 verses, but it was also a really good chapter. There's always something you can learn, even from the most seemingly mundane chapters. So this chapter is just where Nephi is explaining how he has 2 sets of plates, both for kind of a different purpose. And I think my standout verse for this chapter is going to be verse 5. Let me just read it again really quick. It says, Wherefore the Lord hath commanded me to make these plates for a wise purpose in him, which purpose I know not. That's cool. That's cool. He's engraving these words onto metal plates just because God told him to. He doesn't even know why he's etching words into these metal plates. It's, I'm sure, very difficult work to keep up these records. And Nephi writes so much in them because God told him to. Obviously, we know why he wrote these records so that we can read them in our modern day and they can teach us amazing lessons. And yet, Nephi's just doing this because he just trusts God. He's like, yeah, God told me to do this, so I'm going to do it. I don't know why. I think we're talking about spiritual things, so talking about spiritual things is important, but other than that, he doesn't really know why. And I think that's cool. I've mentioned so many times before how Nephi just has this great faith and trust in God. And having kind of this deep and abiding trust in God is really difficult to cultivate. But he really exemplifies it in kind of everything he does, which is super inspiring to read. So yeah, and it's also just cool to read these records from our modern perspective, because Nephi's writing that he doesn't know why he's making these plates, and we're reading it and we're like, yeah, we know why you made these plates. You made these plates so that we can read them in our modern day, and we can learn lessons that we need to learn. And I don't know, like having the modern perspective on this record sometimes is just so cool. Every once in a while you read these prophecies that have to do with, like, for these people, the far-flung future, and for us, it's the past. Like, there are prophecies that are written in this book that have been fulfilled, and that's so cool. Anyways, I'm getting off track. So, Very good chapter, very quick, but very good. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Just as a side note, if you do want to read along, which I highly recommend, by the way, there are 3 options. They're all linked down in the episode notes. So for the first option, there is LDS.org, where you can go just for a free web version of the Book of Mormon. There's also the Book of Mormon app that you can download that is just straight up the Book of Mormon in an app form. It's great. And the third option is the Gospel Library app, which has all published LDS resources, and it's also free. So yeah, I would highly recommend finding a way to read along for yourself, whether you have your own copy or you use one of the options that I have linked. It definitely helps you learn a little bit more from each chapter, maybe stuff that I don't mention, because I don't mention a lot of things. There's also a link down in the show notes called Let Me Know What You Learned, and that is a way that you can let me know what you learned. That's literally just a way where you can contact me and tell me all your neat thoughts about the chapters that we read, because honestly, the Book of Mormon is cool, and I only talk about what I think is cool from my perspective, and I would love to hear other people's perspectives on what they think is cool. So, anyways, thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you later. Bye.